Hi, I'm Abagachi, and come with me for a day of what I eat while trying to clean out my fridge and my pantry. So we're starting off with French press coffee here. Gotta start the day off right. I always like to add some half and half in as well, which you'll see in a second. I also had some cereal, some corn checks with blueberries from a local blueberry farm. So really delicious start to the day and reasonably healthy, So here's that. And then for lunch, I made a big batch of wild rice, adding in some olive oil here, and then adding in some better than bouillon, chicken flavored, and just heating up the wild rice and cooking it until I've got this big batch that I can use all week. And it's a favorite in my house because it's really delicious and full of nutrients. Now here we've got dinner, starting off with some tofu, trying to cut it into tofu fries. I ended up getting a lot of tofu nuggets and then just like a couple fries that didn't fall apart. Tofu's a little bit hard to maintain its shape. And normally I freeze tofu before I use it because it helps it absorb marinades and such a little bit better. But I didn't have time to do that this time. So I'm adding in a marinade, adding in some lemon juice, and then adding in some chicken bouillon. This time I'm using just some leftover packets from ramen noodles because I had them. And then just putting in some water and letting that sit while I work on the other items. So here I'm putting in some rice flour to make a breading for the tofu. Also putting in some salt, some lemon pepper seasoning, some nutritional yeast. This is expired, so I need to use it up pretty quickly. And then some breadcrumbs, and mixing that all together. And I really like rice flour for this because it adds a little bit of a crunch to it rather than how wheat flour gets a little bit soggy. So we've got those all set up. Now I've cut up some potato wedges, adding some olive oil here. And then we'll add some spices and seasonings, more nutritional yeast so I can use it up. And you can see my phone stand, which is an Apple right now. You can see the sticker in the corner there. I need to get an actual phone stand. And I noticed while going through this that a lot of my spices and like my oil are all from Walmart, which was surprising to me because I haven't shopped there in at least 6 months and haven't shopped there consistently in years. So really need to use some of these up because I think they might be a little bit old, but that's okay. And adding in some more lemon pepper seasoning, going for like a lemon pepper theme for the entire dinner. And some salt, because there's not a whole lot of salt in the lemon pepper seasoning or any of the other seasonings that I added. And then giving it a good mix to get it on all of the wedges instead of just some of them. And then we'll be adding it to a pan and getting it all spread out. I like to use parchment paper on mine so that they don't get stuck to the pan. And then we'll be throwing them in the oven. And I think I baked these for probably 30 to 40 minutes at 425 to get them all nice and crispy. It does take a while in the oven. I also use my air fryer sometimes, but I was using the air fryer for the tofu bites this time. And here, my phone fell off of its Apple stand. So getting these on the pan, getting them all spread out so that they cook evenly and get all crispy. Potatoes are one of my favorite foods. They're so versatile. You can make them into wedges like I am today. You can make them into fries. You can make them into baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, anything you want. They're so versatile and they're so delicious in all of their forms. And here I'm adding some more seasonings to the top in case they didn't get mixed enough or doesn't have enough seasoning across the whole wedge. Now here we are breading the tofu nuggets. So the tofu nuggets have been marinating for a little while and then putting them into the breading mixture just to cover them fully, give them a little bit of crunch when I air fry them. This does take a while to go through the entire tofu package and get all of the pieces covered. But it's a reasonably enjoyable process and gets a really nice crunch on the outside. And adds a lot more flavor to the tofu nuggets. And you can see as I'm pulling these out that a lot of them are getting broken that weren't already broken. So I ended up with very few actual tofu fries and a lot of just tofu nuggets. I should have probably made a little bit more breading because I started to run out towards the end. I was going to put any extra breading onto the wedges that I made as well, give them a little bit of extra crunch and flavor. But I ended up not having enough to even put any extra anywhere and kind of ran out when I was doing the last few nuggets. And like I said, the rice flour adds a really nice crunch to it. If you're gluten-free, it's a really good alternative for breading. Works really well on fish especially. This breading is not gluten-free because it has breadcrumbs in it, but I normally don't even add breadcrumbs. I just happen to have some that I wanted to use up. And you can add all sorts of different spices and seasonings to it to add some more flavor. Just depends on what you've got available and what you want to add in. Now we're starting to get to the end of the breading process. You can see me running out of breading right there, trying to get the last few nuggets covered. And now these are going in the air fryer. These are, once they're done, really nice and crispy. Now we're starting on a smoothie. I had melted some frozen strawberries in the fridge overnight. Now I'm adding them to my blender and then also adding in some peaches from a fruit mix that I've had for quite a while. Trying to use it up, but it wasn't very popular. I've also got some leftover juice from I believe from a party. So I'm adding that in there as well instead of water. And here I've got some very old chia seeds that I've been trying to use up for quite a while. They seem to only come in really big containers, so I think I've had this for years at this point. But it adds a nice little bit of fiber and nutrients in there. So adding in the juice for liquid and a little bit of sweetness. And now I'm gonna get it blended up. Now this blender is really small for more than one person. You can generally get like 2 small cups from it. I probably should have purchased a larger blender years ago when I got it, but it works pretty well and it was really cheap. So we've got it all blended. I'm gonna put it into my jars real quick so we can see. And it was very delicious. 10 out of 10 would make again. So now it's all coming together. We've got some potato wedges, peas, tofu nuggets, and a little dipping sauce. Look at that crunch.